and he's going to answer those with me. So if you have really technical questions as far as like things go, we'll be able to answer those super cleanly. But first, we're going to kind of get into some of the stuff that we got prepared today. So first things first, what should you expect from this meeting? One, what are sponsored product ads? Where can you find sponsored product ads? Why you should be running them, and what are the best practices for running them? I know a lot of you guys maybe are selling on Amazon currently, or if not, when you get into it, sponsored product ads are an essential part of it. And then what are the common pitfalls that we see people fall into if they're running sponsored product ads for the first time on Amazon? So let's get moving with that. So what are sponsored product ads? This is a super general question, but I think it's super important to lay the baseline as far as this goes. So essentially, there's three ways that you can drive traffic on Amazon, right? Your organic traffic, that's SEO, is the easiest way to think about it. Amazon SEO, which that's having a fully optimized listing. That's filling out all your keywords, your search terms, your title, your bullet points, your description, right? So that's one way people are going to find you is by search, which is super important. And then a second way is off-site traffic, right? Where that's maybe you're driving traffic from Facebook or Google or your own site if you maybe want to push the 2-day shipping. And then the third way and most important way is paid advertising, right? That's a way that's like I've really seen, even in the 3 years that I've been working with Amazon sellers, 3 years ago, no one even talked about it, right? It was not even a thing. And then last year I was kind of like, I think the big way that Amazon's really going to grow and you're really going to see to launch products as sponsored product ads. And then, this year it's been like the hot ticket item that everyone's talking about, which is why this is like super important because it's the easiest and most cost-effective way to drive traffic to your listings, right? It's still pennies on the dollar as compared to Facebook or Google. So if you're not running ads on Amazon, you're running behind, and that's just the truth, right? You're losing business if you're not running ads on Amazon today, and that's super important. So by the numbers, let's kind of look at some of those numbers that I just shared. Amazon's ad business is growing faster than both Google's and Facebook's. That's huge. By I think it's 2021 or something like that, Amazon's projected to be a larger share of the ad spend than Google and Facebook. So that's huge, right? So once again, like you're paying pennies on the dollars right now for driving traffic on Amazon as compared to Google. And then Amazon sponsored product ads account for 82% of its market ad spend. So there's a couple different places that you can buy ads, right? Some of you probably have a vendor relationship with Amazon, so you have AMS or AMG. But sponsored product ads, which is primarily the third-party solution, right, that we'll be talking about today, is driving 82% of this marketplace ad spend, which is huge. So it's really important that you are able to internalize some of the basics that we're going to be talking about today and instill them into your business, because otherwise, you're going to be competing against the majority of the people for this same slots. So it's super important. So where are sponsored product ads? This is, again, just baseline. We want to make sure that everyone's on the same page so that you know what you're getting yourself into if you've never ran a sponsored product ads, or maybe you're managing someone who on your team who's managing it, but you don't know quite what they're talking about and want to be able to talk to them about it a little bit more. We need to know where these placements are putting you, right? If you're paying so much, you need to know where they should be. So you can find them a couple different places. And did it shift over? I don't think it clicked over. Oh, wait. 1 second. A little bit of lag. I apologize. All right. So the first place you can see is the headline search placement, right? And this is when you search a apple slicer, right? We always like to use the example of apple slicer. This is the placement that arrives at the very top, and it's kind of just an awareness play, right? Where you're saying, oh, look at all these 3 different products that this company sells, right? I'm just trying to getting in their mind a little bit, trying to figure out what's going on. Say, okay, well, we'll consider us. It's in the consideration phase of the purchase. And then you have the more standard in the picture below that, typical sponsored product ads. And this is just appearing at the top, the first couple results of any search on Amazon generally. Well, actually, I think I saw the numbers, and it's about 70% of searches have ads bought for them currently. So that's pretty huge already. So you can see here, and these are trying to get you to click on them and then buy them, right? So that's what people normally think of when you think of sponsored product ads. So let's go on through to see a couple more placements that you can get. Products related to this item. So this is when you click into a product on the item detail page, right? You scroll down past the description, and it says, hey, here are some sponsored products related to this item. And then here are some more sponsored products related, and that's, again, more of kind of a consideration that you can see there that are just loosely related. So that's kind of what you're getting into, that placements that you're bidding for. As we go into it, you're trying to figure out, if you're trying to figure out where it is even. So how do I win with sponsored product ads? That's the big ticket question, right? Like, okay, if there's all this money going into it, how do I win? The answer is spam. Okay, maybe not this kind of spam, but it is spam, right? So what's spam? And it's an acronym that we came up with here at Seller Labs, and it's simple. It's a system, process, and metrics, right? So in order to repetitively achieve goals in your business, you have to have systems in place that are proven to reach the goal, right? You need to break down your system into processes that can be tweaked or automated, and then you need to know the metrics by which you're judging success for those processes and systems. So you need to know in order to figure out what's going wrong with the system, what's going wrong with the process, you have to know the metrics by which you're judging the system and the process. So it's a really simple message, spam. It's easy to remember. So this is what I'm trying to hope that you take away from today is the system, process, and metrics by which you should be assessing your sponsored product ads or your employees who are running your sponsored product ads or consultants. So before we move any further, I just want to say this. Sponsored product ads can be tough. So, even if you're coming from a background where you know something about paid advertising and you're doing Google and you're doing Facebook, there's a lot to learn since Amazon doesn't exactly, how should I say it, like they don't really make it as clean as Facebook or Google. It's not as mature of a system. A lot of people kind of say that it's maybe at where Google or Facebook were at like 5 to 10 years ago, respectively. They give you some of the info, but it's like kind of obfuscated. It's kind of hidden away in all these different, Excel spreadsheets. It's not very clear as to what you should do. So like the first time I downloaded a report set from Amazon to try to figure out what I was doing, I kind of looked like this. I've got this gift here from Good Burger where it's, yeah, I know some of these words. There's a sign, a percentage sign. There's a word that says ACOS. Yeah, I'm killing it right now. I know some of these words, right? So, it's a funny take, but it's kind of true. There's just a lot of data out there, right? There's tons of data. You download these huge spreadsheets. There's new terminology. There's ACOS, right? That's not a term that's used anywhere else. There's, you just try and you give up. It's a really complex field that's filled with tons of overlapping ideas, right? One blog says, do this. Another blog says, no, never do that. Do it this way. There's hundreds of gurus out there who are just like trying to tell you that their way is the way to do it. And if you do it their way and use their system and buy their course and everything else, that you're going to succeed, right? And then there's lots of different systems, which ultimately just leads, all these systems and gurus and overlapping ideas just lead to misdirection, right? There's just general confusion about how to do it and how to succeed. And that's tough for business owners or e-commerce managers who don't have a ton of time to spend on one specific channel, right? You can't focus a full day or 40 hours a week on just Amazon advertising. So it's really confusing, and it has the potential just to be a real thorn in your side. But it's super important because Amazon can be a huge channel if you let it. So that's where it brings in spam. And so that's the point is we want to bring you this kind of broad, overarching system that you can help put into place, and you can work in other things that you like or don't like or change it. We're not trying to tell you the exact step-by-step method. What we want to show you is how to put system, process, metrics into place so that you can make those important decisions yourself or let your employees make those decisions. So the simple system. We're going to talk about each of these individually, so I want to run through it at the top. I'm a big picture guy, so I like to be shown where we're headed, and then we can dig into it in finite detail. So 1, determine your target ACOS. For those of you who don't know what ACOS is, it's advertising cost of sale. and that's a term that Amazon likes to use, and we'll kind of dig into that a little bit more. 2, structure your campaign for success. 3, use profitable keywords and user search terms. 4, optimize bids to drive traffic. 5, check your campaigns once or twice a week, and that part's super important. But now we've kind of got the simple system outline, right? We've got the 5 really kind of broad points. Let's kind of dig into each of these points a little bit more detailed.
Before you go on, Tyler, if I could just jump in for a moment. We're getting a lot of background noise, and we've had a number of additional people join the call. If I could ask everyone just to put your phones on mute, just so we cut down on the background noise, I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, all yours, Tyler.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. So we've got kind of the outline, right? Now let's dig into the details a little bit more. So first thing first, you need to determine your target ACOS or ACOS or advertising cost of sale. But before you can really do that, what you need to do is determine your business goal. And so what I mean by that is if you're looking to, you need to decide what your goal with running this advertising campaign is going to be, right? If you're looking to blitz the market, you need to make sure that the product shows up for anything remotely related to your product. You need to be okay with a high ACOS, right? But if you just want to dip your toes in and get a little extra exposure or only bid on key terms, on your trademark terms, then your ACOS can be a lot lower. So part of it really kind of becomes an issue of profit margin. But should profit margin even be a concern? That's an important question. Should your ACOS be a concern? A lot of people build their ACOS as follows, right? ACOS should be less than profit margin, less than or equal to profit margin. That's how a lot of people kind of think about it, right? So I never want to lose money. I never want to pay more than it costs me. What's left over after my cost of goods sold, and all my fees to acquire a customer. So that's kind of how a lot of people think about it. And is that the right way to do it? And I would say the answer is it depends. And you said, Tyler, that's really generic answer. You can't just leave me like that. So, when do I know when I should have a crazy high ACOS or when should I have a crazy low ACOS? That it really does depend. And so here's an example of that. So let's talk about supplements. I don't know if anyone here sells supplements or not, or knows anything about the supplement market, but it's an incredibly competitive market. If you search supplements or, vitamin C or protein powder or anything like that on Amazon, it's an extremely competitive market. And I would venture to say probably one of the higher keywords with as far as ACOS goes, if you're trying to bid on it. But what that's very expensive for a good reason, right? It's a very profitable niche. It's incredibly popular. So it just means you have to adjust your business goal going into buying the ads if you're a supplement seller, right? Because if you're selling a supplement, you're not playing the short game, right? You're knowing that someone who's buying supplements is probably going to buy again, right? So you can have an outrageous ACOS, right? So you can have maybe 100, 200% advertising cost of sale because you know that you're not playing the short game, right? You're okay with paying over 100% ACOS because when you acquire that customer, they're going to come back and buy again next month or in the month after that. And so you just have to adjust your business goal. If you're selling something that's not something that's replenishable or they want to buy over and over again, then you need to adjust your business goals for that as far as ACOS goes. You need to say, okay, well, maybe I do want to keep that below my profit margin. I do want to, only spend 10% of my remaining profit to acquire the customer. So that's kind of what you need to think about as far as customer acquisition cost goes, as far as like how your business goes. So that's super important. So now that we've kind of figured that out, is your business goals and your target ACOS out, we need to, there it is. You need to structure your campaigns for success. I cannot understate the importance of this. You can throw as much money as you want at a campaign, but if your campaign's not set up correctly, it won't work, right? You can just toss money at it till the end of the day, but if it's not set up correctly, it won't work. So the most important thing about structuring your campaign for success ironically, doesn't have to do with how you set your campaign up. It has to do with having optimized listings, right? And having a listing that actually converts. So what's the most important thing with that? It's optimizing your listing for conversion first. And whether I'm talking to someone about SEO on Amazon, or hey, my products aren't selling, why aren't they selling? Or talking about advertising on Amazon, the thing I always tell them is optimize your listings for conversion first. Amazon cares infinitely much. Like, it's their top priority, and anything that you do on Amazon is the customer experience, right? They don't care about you, even if you're Nike, sometimes if you're a seller, but they care about that customer experience. So you need to optimize for listings first. So why do we want to optimize for conversion? Because who's buying your products? And you're probably, as your business owners or e-commerce managers, you're thinking, okay, I'm thinking about the exact demographic, the exact psychographic. It's a male, 35. He's got 2 kids. But that's not what I'm asking. The answer is humans are buying your products, right? So you need to think how humans think. You need to write your listings how humans write the listings, and you need to optimize for that, for what's going to make them click through and purchase. And then once you do that, ads will follow. Because what good is driving all the traffic in the world if you can't make a single sale, right? Here's an example I like to give of this. There was an ad that Kmart ran a while back, and it was, I don't know if Eric, if you remember this or anything, it's the I shipped my pants. They were sending people to the Amazon site. So if you don't have it in the store, then you can order it. And I just shipped my pants. And there was an old man in the bed, and he said, I just shipped my bed. And it was like went viral, and it was crazy. But the real problem with this was that they were driving people to Kmart.com, which was not a good user experience. So it was not a good user experience, and so they just really ended up going bankrupt 6 months after this commercial went viral, which is insane, right? You drive millions and millions of people to your website, and then you still end up like not converting, right? So it's really, really bad. So as far as conversions go, and we can maybe come back and do a whole webinar on that later. But it's important to have generic keywords that matter in your title, in your bullet points, in your description, right? You've built up all this. You've built up all of this marketing collateral on your own personal website or for other marketplaces, but it does need to be altered slightly to fit with the Amazon audience. And so I don't have any slides really prepared further on that, but it is important to do, and you can kind of look up. There are a lot of people who can kind of give you more exactly. So now that we've kind of got our listings optimized completely, the next important thing to do is to group like products together in your advertising campaigns. So this is what I do. I make similar products for child. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with Amazon, like you have one T-shirt, a Hanes T-shirt, and it's got a couple different colors, right? You have the blue one, the red one, the orange one, and you want to group them together in campaigns. That way they share the relevant clicks and searches. So like if you have a Hanes T-shirt that's blue, red, and white, you want those all part of one ad group. What you don't want to put in the same ad group is if you have a blue shirt and blue shoes, right? They're not going to share as many common keywords or they're not like products, right? They have similar features, but they're not like products. So that's super important as well. So then you want to, the next step in structuring your campaign for success is running your campaign with 3 different ad groups. That will help because this will help your organization. This means that you can group all the keywords at match type level in one ad group, which means you can change the bid for the ad group at the ad group level, and it will affect all of the keywords, right? This helps with organization when you're moving terms around, so you can just one term from an ad group into another ad group, and they'll still stay together. And I'm a huge advocate of running auto campaigns, so I suggest running one auto and one manual campaign. Doing this will help you find new terms that you might not have thought about, right? Running an auto campaign, that is, because Amazon's just going to say, oh, hey, based on your optimization, based on your listing optimization that you've done, which is why building a listing to convert, optimizing your listing ahead of time helps. When you run an auto-targeted campaign, you'll also find terms that are leading to impressions, clicks, that also help you, and even competitors that you didn't know about. It gives you a ton more data than people think. So there's a ton of value in running a manual campaign with broad phrase and exact match ad groups, and then also an auto-targeting campaign that you can move over ads from. The next step, the fourth step, is using profitable keywords. Many of you know that there are keywords being used in sponsored product ads, but it actually goes deeper than that. There are keywords and search terms. So if you have a broad match going, you can see all the actual search terms that are being searched for your products and being found, right? So let's kind of talk about that a little bit deeper. It's a little confusing, but if you look at this graph over here on the right, we've got a great example of it. This is like super helpful. So the top line that we've kind of got highlighted on each of these is the keywords that we're using, and then all the other terms in the circle are the user search terms. So if we have a broad match for the keyword apple slicer, then the user search terms that it'll appear for, that you're bidding on, is apple slicer, red slicer for apple, slicer for red apple, slicer case for Apple iPhone 6s, right? So those are the search terms that you're appearing for because it's a broad match. And so the differentiation between broad match, phrase match, and exact match is this. Broad match will include all the individual words, but they can be in different orders and broken up. For example, slicer for red apple, even though the keyword that you're bidding on is apple slicer. Phrase match has to include the terms back to back, but it can also include other words. So if you look at this example right here in the middle tier, you can see apple slicers, 12-piece apple slicer. So it's including other words, but it's including the phrase apple slicer. And then exact match is just going to be the user search terms that it appears for are exactly the keywords that you put in. So that's kind of the difference between user search terms and keywords. This graph's like great for reference. I come back to it all the time to help explain it to people. So once you're running a broad match keyword search for apple slicer, right? Some of these keywords or some of these user search terms are going to be profitable, while other ones are not, right? So if you're bidding on the keyword apple slicer, red slicer for apple will probably be a pretty decent performing keyword for that, or user search term for that. People are probably going to say, oh, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Whereas slicer case for Apple iPhone 6s is not going to be relevant. So you're probably going to see that in the numbers. And so what you can do is move the successful user search terms from an auto-targeting campaigns or a broad match campaigns and move those into your manual campaigns as new keywords, right? So you can say, okay, I want to move red slicer for apple into an exact match or a phrase match from this auto-targeting campaign to this manual campaign and change the bid on it. Whereas slicer case for Apple iPhone 6s, I probably, it's costing me a lot because bidding on iPhone cases is really expensive, but I'm not ever getting any sales because it doesn't have anything to do with my product. So that's why you have to move those over to profitable keywords. So don't get caught up on Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is great, Tyler. Before we move on, we're still getting a lot of background noise, so I wanted to again ask people, because we probably had some additional folks join the call. So I wanted to again ask people if they could please mute your phones or mute your microphones. We can sort of hear people, little coughs or sneezes or breathes, etc. So again, just want to remind everyone to mute their phones. Also, if you have any questions for Tyler, you'll see there's a chat button. The second from the left, green button on the top is a little chat button. Feel free to start asking questions to Tyler there. Certainly you can ask them at the end of his presentation verbally, but if you want to ask them in text, again, we encourage you right now to go and use that chat button on the top and start typing out your questions, and Tyler should see those, and he can start addressing those. Thanks a lot. Back to you, Tyler.
Awesome. Yeah. So thanks, Eric. The really important thing about this is you don't want to get caught up just managing your keywords, right? You want to look at the search terms as well and making sure that you make adjustments on bids for those and moving those over as well. So that's super important as to running successful campaigns. So let's move on to the next thing here. So again, this is an iteration on that. So as you've moved them over, you're adding them to your manual campaigns, you're moving them from broad to phrase or phrase to exact. You want to keep the bids higher on well-performing keywords. If they're more competitive, they're going to have a higher bid, right? That's an obvious statement, but it's true. And you need to keep the bid high so you can keep winning the placement and can continue getting clicks on those conversions. They're worth bidding on, they're worth paying more because they're driving conversions to your listings. And when a keyword's not converting as well, you don't necessarily have to set it as a negative keyword or pause it. You can instead just kind of lower the bid that you're spending on and not spending on it and not spend as much. You might be getting some valuable information from those lower converting terms as well, just kind of like what we were talking about earlier, where you might be able to find user search terms or competitors based on bidding on those, but you don't want to spend a lot of money on them, right? You only want to spend a percentage of your ad spend on that. So that's how I suggest optimizing your bids for traffic. Where's it going to go? All right. So this is the hard part, right? This is the really hard part, and especially if you're a small team or you're an entrepreneur or you're brand new to it and you want to get really good at it really quick. This is the really hard part, and that's patience, right? You want to monitor your campaigns at a distance. You don't want to overcheck your campaigns. You want to give them time to gain impressions, clicks, conversions. That way you can make data-driven decisions. You know, a lot of the times as entrepreneurs, as sellers, as business owners, we want to trust our gut and we want to make decisions that we like and we feel good about. But that's only going to get better. You're only going to feel better about making those decisions if you have data that helps you support those decisions. So the last thing you want to do is kill a keyword before you have the right amount of data just because it's not doing well on one day. I kind of like to think of it like a 401k account, right? If you check your 401k every single day, you're going to go insane because the market swings, right? You don't want to check that every day. You want to check it every couple months, every year even sometimes, because the market's going to go up one day and it's going to be down another, and you can't fret about every single little facet of it because the market, you're playing the long game with it, right? You want to check it when there's data decisions, and maybe every year you check your 401k and say, oh, I should move it from small cap to large cap, but you have the data to base that on. You have a year's worth of data, right? That's going to help you make that decision. And that's what you want to do with sponsored product ads on Amazon. You want to have the clicks and the impressions to make the informed decision on. So that's the simple system. Determine your target ACOS, know your business goals for going into it, right? Structure your campaigns for success, have an optimized listing, etc. Use your profitable keywords and use your search terms. Focus in on the ones that matter, the ones that don't matter. You can lower or get rid of. Optimize your bids to drive traffic, right? Keep the ones in mind that are driving traffic. Make sure that you're bidding high on the ones that are sending traffic and converting, lower on the other ones. And then check your campaigns once or twice a week. So that's kind of the system, and it seems kind of simple, right? Well, sometimes not so much. So here are 4 of the most common pitfalls that we see on a daily basis. We work with thousands of sellers, and here are kind of some of the 4 pitfalls that we see commonly. Using irrelevant keywords. So this is we kind of talked about keywords and search terms and etc. So what does using irrelevant keywords mean? This means when you're spending a lot of money on keywords that aren't working without checking back to see if the data is actually telling you that it's right? This is exactly what I was just talking about. You're letting your gut lead you and saying, surely this must convert. Surely I think that maybe because this is done well on another marketplace, or maybe because I think this is how customers talk about my product or think about my product, but it actually doesn't. Or you're spending a lot of money to get it and no one's ever converting, and they just end up bouncing on your listing because they don't think it's relevant, right? This would be like bidding on Air Jordans if you're Adidas, right? Like, don't bid on people who are buying Jordans are looking specifically for Jordans. That's what they care about. They don't care about Adidas. So you're spending a lot of money to appear when in actuality, you're not going to ever get a sale from that. Pitfall number 2, auto-targeting cruise control. So, we can do it. We could do a poll. I usually like to do a poll here and say, how many of you turn on cruise control in your car and go to sleep? None of you, because you wouldn't be on this webinar today. If you did, you would probably be dead or in the hospital, right? Just like the same thing with auto-targeting campaigns, right? They're a lot like that. You can't just put them on cruise control and then leave or fall asleep, right? Because if you do, you're going to spend a lot of money, because Amazon wants you to spend a lot of money. So there's no more running around and hoping for the best to happen, and that Amazon's, surely Amazon won't keep bidding on that if no one ever converts. To a certain extent, they don't really care, right? You need to use the data that you're paying for, and that's like key, right? That's the trick, is to use the data that you're paying for. You need to move the successful search terms and keywords into manual campaigns, and then regulate the bids on the non-successful keywords, right? So that's really important. Having bids too low. So not being competitive enough on your bids to get the results that you want, right? This is going back to our first topic, which is aligning your business goals, right? If you want to be aggressive in acquiring customers, if you want to be aggressive in making sales, you want to get that sales velocity up on your new listings, you need to be aggressive with your bids, right? Many people start with the bids way too low, and it takes forever to even get data this way, right? If you're trying to get data really quickly, you need to have more aggressive bids so you can show up in front of more people and get more clicks and see if they purchase. So placing your bid more aggressively on the higher end of the range of suggested bids will provide you more data in a shorter amount of time. And this will let you make better decisions long term. So I like to start very aggressive, especially with new campaigns, so that you can kind of step in and see the data, what's working, what's not working, in a relatively quick amount of time. If you want to come into it a little bit more timidly, that's okay too, but you need to adjust your business goals to accept that. And then checking too often. Again, this is the 401k analogy, right? You don't want to stifle the growth that you can have by making decisions too early, right? Go into it, check it once a week, once every 2 weeks at first. Again, this depends on how aggressively you're doing it, but even if you're bidding really aggressively, you're not going to have enough data to make all that up in a day. You need to provide your campaigns time to gain usable data. And so here's just a quick auto summary of this, where you can see what's the first pitfall: using irrelevant keywords. And the solution is use profitable keywords and user search terms. 2, having an auto-targeted campaign on cruise control, and that's to dive into your auto-targeting campaigns and find successful terms. 3, keeping bids too low, so you need to focus your spending on keywords that are performing well. And 4, checking campaigns too often, and that's to monitor your campaigns at a distance, right? Remove yourself from it a little bit. And so that's kind of the spam method, right? Putting in a system, a process, and metrics, knowing the metrics that you want to assess your campaign by. And then finally, spam plus Ignite equals success. So we have a tool that helps you monitor your sponsored product ads and give you automated suggestions, as well as give you a really clean interface so you're not digging through all of those ugly Amazon Excel spreadsheets. And you can make all those changes automatically. We provide keyword recommendations to you to bid on, and we provide suggestions to you on whether you should raise or lower your bids, or move them from broad to phrase or phrase to exact. So we just really help make the process easier for you. So yeah, if you want to learn more about Ignite, or read a blog post that my colleague Edward wrote called 6 Questions Every Amazon Seller Should Be Asking for Better PPC Campaigns, you can go to sellerlabs.com/solid, and you can read that article and get info about Ignite. Again, like the point of this is, even if you decide you want to use our tool or aren't doing PPC on Amazon at all, period, the point of this is for you to be able to walk away and put a system into place that you can succeed with or without us. So yeah, now we have time for questions.
Great. I see, first of all, Tyler, that was fabulous. So thank you very, very much. We have a text question from viewer 25. Asks, over what period of time should we be analyzing campaign data?
Yeah, so I'd say like once or twice a week is probably pretty good with that. You don't, like I said, you don't want to check every day or every hour or anything ridiculous like that. But you want to dig in like once or twice a week to kind of figure out, and there's some data that can build up in that time. And we maybe 10 clicks if you're looking for like a good round number. Some people like to use more, but generally we'll wait for at least 10 clicks before we make any decision on a keyword or search term.
Great. Viewer 18 has a question. Viewer 18 asks, is the ACOS based on a campaign drive sales or on total sales?
Yeah, so that's based on a campaign drive sales. I think Amazon attributes the campaign by 30 days, I believe. Actually, you can choose. I think it's 30 or 60 days. So you can, that attribution, but the ACOS is based on that.
Great. Viewer 29 asks, how do you suggest we determine our starting bids?
So Amazon makes suggested starting bids. And so I like to be aggressive, and I say, start on the higher end of that.
Great. Viewer 29, excuse me, that was viewer 29. Viewer 31 asks, how do you find irrelevant keywords? Presumably they're talking about negative keywords.
Oh man, that is a great question. One great way that's in today's context is running those auto-targeted campaigns, right? Amazon's going to show you all the search terms that they show up for you in that auto-targeted campaign. So that's one great way. That's showing where you're actually showing up. But a lot of where you show up for those is based on where your listing's optimized for, right? Amazon's a search engine like Google. So if you don't tell it what you are in your listing, it won't know where to place you in the auto-targeted campaigns either. So there's a couple other places that you can kind of look, and I kind of have a whole hour-long talk on how to optimize that and figure that out. But the quick and dirty answer is you can look at you have marketing collateral for off of Amazon, so you can use that. You can look at your competitors' listings on Amazon. Look at your reviews or your competitors' reviews. See how users are actually talking about them. And then there's also always tools that can help you find that as well. We have a tool that helps you find the keywords that are actually driving sales to you or your competitors' listings on Amazon as well. So if all else fails, use a tool. But if you want to do it the manual way, any of those places is a great place to start.
Great. So viewer 30 again asked, we had a similar question to an earlier question, over what period of time should we be analyzing campaign data? What day range should we be looking at?
So on Amazon, you can only view the previous 30 days or 60 days. So you can choose a customized. I would say, 2 weeks, a month. It kind of depends. I know that's kind of a generic answer, but it kind of depends. I like using as much data as I can find, but that's just me. Like I'm a big fan of making data-driven decisions. So if I've been bidding on a keyword for a month, again, like it comes back to how aggressive you want to be, right? If I'm bidding low on a product, it might take me a month to get the data that I need to make that decision. So I need to look at the full the full month. But if I'm bidding aggressively on it, maybe I only need that 2 weeks.
So thank you. Makes great sense. So viewer 31 has sort of a 2 or 3 part question, but I think the real question is they're having a difficult time identifying which of their sales are ad-directed sales and which are not ad-directed sales in order to calculate their profit margins. Can you talk about that issue?
Yeah. So the advertising cost of sale, it attributes to that. Anytime that someone clicks, right, it's a PPC is kind of how it's viewed. So if someone clicks your ad and then goes and makes the purchase within 2 weeks of the clicking the ad from you, they attribute that to that. So it's going to contribute towards the cost, towards your ACOS, whether they buy it or not. but that's how they figure out like what percentage of the sales come through. So the percentage of people who make a purchase from you, from any of your products within 2 weeks of clicking the link, that is contributed to a sale. And so the percentage is the cost that you're paid based on that. I don't know if that clearly answered it, but hopefully it did.
Got it. Well, viewer 31 asks, we can calculate when it happens, but it's hard to estimate up front. So I guess the question is, are there any ways of estimating this up front instead of waiting after the fact?
No, not really. I mean, you can just look at trends, you know, kind of see what it is. I mean, if you can kind of see, you know, if you can kind of guess, like based on what your estimated cost per click is going to be, you can, you know, attribute, you know, what you expect for that to go through. But that's just kind of the nature of the game. There's not really any projections or anything like that currently. Great.
So any other questions, please feel free to ask questions in the chat box. And if anybody else has questions, please feel free to ask. This is no, Tyler. This has been great. This has been really great. So again, if you have any questions about Seller Labs, we encourage you to go to sellerlabs.com/solid. And for any questions about Solid Commerce, feel free to contact me. I'm erik.s@solidcommerce.com. And I think if there's no other questions, I want to thank you, Tyler, for a great presentation, and thanks to everyone for joining. And this
awesome.
will conclude.
Erik, thanks so much for having me. Thanks for coming, everyone. I appreciate it. And yeah, reach out to me, Tyler at Seller Labs, if you have any questions, or go to sellerlabs.com/solid to get the blog post and more info.
Great. Thank you very much, Tyler.
Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.